Okay, good evening.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Good afternoon, evening. This is the Norfolk Conservation Commission. It's March 13th, 2024. And we're setting off the meeting. Before the meeting, I would like to say, just give an update. Our vice chair's daughter was in a horrible accident, but she's recovering, and we wish her well. So, and Jim wasn't able to Zoom in tonight either. So, with that, I accept a motion to open this meeting.
Adam Zucker, so moved.
Do I hear a second?
Valstone, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, off we run. First is 68 River Road, Notice of Intent, DEP 240-0663, public hearing. First, we'll get an update from the agent.
So a proposal for peer review services has been obtained and accepted by the applicant, and that peer review is going to commence shortly. So with that peer review ongoing, the applicant has requested to continue the meeting to the April 10th Concom meeting.
Is that our April meeting?
April 10th, yes.
Quick month. Okay. So I will accept a motion to continue 68 River Road until April 10th at 7:01 p.m.
Motion to continue 68 River Road until April 10th.
Second?
Adam Zucker, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on. 37 Turner Street, notice of intent. The property located at 37 Turner Street. Proposed work includes the construction of a single-family home and associated improvements. It will take place within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bylaw jurisdictional stream. There's a site visit in December. The site is currently improved by a single-family residential home and landscape, maintain lawn areas, and other mature trees. Minimum undisturbed riverfront habitat was observed. Agent
So
Caitlin.
before we continue on with the discussions, the commission does need to open the meeting under the bylaw.
Yes, we do. My error. I'll accept a motion to open the public hearing at 37 Turner Street.
Valstone, I make a motion to open the public hearing for 37 Turner Street, NCC number 2024-01.
Adam Zucker, second.
Is that the right number?
Yes, that's-
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes, so 37 Turner Street is now open. So, Representative, please identify yourself and go from there.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Timothy Martin on behalf of 37 Turner Street. This has been continued a few times, as you know. And again, I apologize. John Glaser couldn't make it. I believe he reached out to Caitlin to see if there were any more comments between the two of them. I'm not privy to that, but I believe Caitlin could address that. When we left the last hearing, we had some discussion, and one of the reasons we came back this evening was to address the question. One of the questions brought up was if work actually gets done out there as far as construction and laydown areas and things like that. So we went back, we looked at it, and we feel very comfortable that we can do all the work and respect the 100-foot buffer. So any activity out there would not invade the 100-foot buffer zone. So we're very comfortable with that. It's going to be a tight fit to do the work, but we respect that. we feel comfortable we can make it happen that way.
Caitlin?
So, yeah, as you all may remember, 37 Turner Street originally came in with an RDA, and the commission, one of the decisions was a positive 5 determination related to the bylaw jurisdictional stream. Work takes place, I believe at its closest, around 5 feet from the stream. So following that determination by the commission, they submitted a bylaw-only notice of intent. It's essentially the same plan that we saw with the RDA, with the additional notes about the stream, and also additional notes detailing the demolition process that's involved with removing that greenhouse structure. And remaining portions of the work are outside of the buffer zone
You want to
from
use
BBW.
our new pointer?
That's okay, I'm not trained on it yet, so. So was,
Can you blow that up a little bit, Elaine?
as far as additional comments or notes, I don't have any related to the work itself. I do have, if the commission decides to go ahead with the issuance of an order, I do have some recommendations for potential special conditions.
You want to say what they are, or?
Sure. So the plan includes details related to the erosion control measures. So a 10-inch diameter silt sock used in conjunction with silt fencing. And I think that, could be included as a special condition as well, along with having that be inspected prior to the start of work, which is pretty standard for projects the commission has approved recently. And other special conditions to consider may include things like revegetating the area between the bank and the limit of work, whether it's a wildlife conservation seed mix or actual plantings. Although I do believe a grass mix would be appropriate there. Right now, it is vegetated with grasses. However, it didn't seem there was a lot of variety there. So having something like the wildlife conservation mix, would include flowers, other native grasses that provide more habitat value than what's currently there. And then another would potentially be fencing along that portion of the property, like a split rail fence, is something the commission has included as a special condition on other projects. So those are just a couple of considerations.
Well, we don't need to do those tonight, the other conditions, correct? Like the fencing and stuff, or should we do them now? Do them tonight.
Well, yeah, they should be done. If the commission votes to close the meeting, those would have to be discussed tonight.
Okay.
Unless the applicant were to waive the 21-day requirement for issuing an order after the close of a public meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Comments, questions from the commission? I would propose, like we've done in the past for other lots, to have a delineation by a fencing, something permanent between so people know where the wetlands begin and,
So like along the limit of work,
yes, yes.
is that something you would be
We're
amenable
fine
to?
with that. That's certainly a reasonable request.
Okay. Are there any comments from the audience on this property applicant? Seeing none, I will accept a motion to close the meeting, the hearing.
Madam Clerk, so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'll accept a motion for this property, for the order an issue of conditions with the requirements Caitlin has said, the erosion controls prior to, the start inspection by Caitlin, our conservation agent, 1 week before the work begins, and that a fence be installed after the work to delineate.
And then, did you also want to include
Plantings.
the planting?
Oh,
or the
yes.
seed mix?
Potential.
So that would be the erosion controls,
Part of the erosion controls.
fencing, and revegetating that area by the stream.
Okay.
Al Finney, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. 41 Turner Street. I'll accept a motion to open this public hearing. Do we have to do that in order to continue it?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, it needs to be open,
and discuss.
and just, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll accept a motion to open the hearing for 41 Turner Street.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Is the applicant here?
I believe so, yep.
Or representative? Okay, you're the owner?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Evening, everybody. Russ Waldron, representing 41 Turner Street. So this is a proposal for a single-family home with a long driveway out in the right rear back corner
You
of
blow that up? Yeah.
of the
You knew.
property.
Yep.
Yeah, I colored this one up because
Yes.
it's a little easier. So the driveway crosses the 0 to 50 as it enters from the street.
Yep.
And then I think at one more point, there's an extra buffer zone line in here, I don't know why, a 75 foot. So, but the two yellow ones are the 50 and the 100. And a portion, and the rest of the project is in the 100 foot. So it's a single family home, a barn, drinking water well, and the long driveway. And one thing that's missing on the plan is a concrete pipe. It's right about here. That takes the drainage that comes down, the country drainage along Turner Street, and then sends it down through here.
That's
don't know.
something you would be installing?
No, it's there, it's existing.
Oh, it's there.
It just didn't get put on the
Oh,
plan.
okay.
We located all the inverts, but for some reason the draftsman didn't put it on the plan. But, so the big challenge as this project is designed is the amount of buffer zone disturbance. So the guys at Dunn McKenzie worked up the numbers and double and triple checked them because they are big. And total disturbance is 19,008 feet. Within the 50 foot is 3,330 feet. So the challenge, one of the challenges, the major challenge is mitigating for this. Really no place on site to do that. The left front portion of the property, there's an existing home, a small barn or shed, and some fencing. And the future plan that the owners have is to have a, like a small 4-H type of, thing going on out there. And they
What do
want
you mean, a thing?
Well, I don't know what 4-H is.
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
As a 4-H leader, it's a youth club, but there's various projects.
Right.
But what would they,
They deal with,
oh, but are you putting up any structures or a corral?
eventually, yeah, no, the house would eventually get used for, 4-H activities.
Oh, okay.
And then they would, the existing fencing would have to, get upgraded at some point, but that's all pretty far in the future. And, but again, getting back to mitigation, so with that, they really want to utilize this whole area, and with that amount of mitigation, we have to get creative, So I didn't really propose anything specific, but, they'd be looking at, things on the order of conservation easements or, deed restrictions, those kinds of things.
Okay.
And, maybe some planting, but there really isn't a lot of room for it if they want to utilize the property as they hope to. But other than that, we didn't put, I talked with the engineers over at Dunn McKenzie, and I said, are you going to put drainage in the driveway? That's a long driveway. And they said, well, let's wait, see what the commission says. And, they're not, and then I asked them about roof infiltrators for the barn and the house, and they said, same thing, let's get the commission's input, because, that's all, fairly expensive, undertakings. So that's pretty much it. Kayla went out yesterday and walked it after we staked it. It's pretty soggy out there, especially right in here. And so there is an old, or actually it's another entranceway into the property off the road here, which is what was originally considered. And there's I think it's an 8-inch PVC or HDPE pipe that carries the flow from this little stream, and then underneath what is now like a grassed cart path. And the original thought was to bring the driveway in this way, but the amount, it would just be squeaking past the wetland edge, and then this whole thing would have to be upgraded. And so we talked it over and just said, look, just run it down the property line and just limit area to just buffer zone disturbance. So that's where it stands at the moment.
Okay. Caitlin?
Yeah, so like Russ was saying, I went out there yesterday, and I walked the line and took a look at some of the staked footprints. But I need to do some additional field review to confirm, that wetland boundary, and also confirm distances from those staked locations to the wetlands. In regards to the buffer zone disturbance, I think particularly within the 50-foot no disturb, I think the applicant should do an assessment of the presumptions stated in the bylaw for what the 50-foot no disturb provides. Establish which functions they do and may not provide, and then based on that assessment, propose some potential mitigation. For example, if the 50-foot no disturb is found to provide significant wildlife passage, which is one of the presumptions under the bylaw, compensate for that in some way on different portion of the site. So
Should they provide what their mitigation plan would be before we let them go forward?
yes, Yeah, they should provide that analysis as required under the bylaw for the 50-foot no disturb at the very least. There's a good amount of disturbance in the 50 to 100-foot buffer zone as well. But from a regulation standpoint, the disturbance in the 50-foot is the most important
Sure.
to assess and mitigate for.
Okay. So we'd like to continue this until the April meeting?
Yes, and also DEP has not issued a file number yet, so it would need to be continued either way.
Okay. You good with that? Anything from the owner?
Just to say that if we had to revise the plans to avoid any conflict with the 50-foot buffer zone, the plans are still somewhat malleable, right? I mean, if we can move something, our architect is here, and if you see, if we
It is the
move something to
driveway.
avoid that, that's possible too.
It's only the driveway that's in the 50-foot.
Yeah, there really is no way that we permitted it as a limited access because this really is here or here. I mean, you could swing and drive, but those are the only ways back. And this just seemed like the least impactful, even though it's still, pretty good amount of area.
If it matters too, we were planning on a gravel driveway, not a paved driveway for that length, especially.
And that would help with the drainage.
Yep. Yeah.
In front of the garage door was maybe a slight paved part, but
Sure.
the length of it would be gravel or stone.
I understand. Any comments questions from the audience? If there are any, address them to me, please. Yes, sir.
Is this a single-family home or a 4-H facility?
Single-family home.
And I don't understand what the 4-H...
That's, the 4-H thing is like a future hope and dream, I guess, for the existing building and, garden or small pasture area out front. Right now, this is strictly a single-family home.
That building's accessory building would use for storage, workshop, or whatever. I mean, one of the things we talked about possibly was doing sort of, activity space for things like that.
I
But that's-
stop you for a minute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I apologize. This is so the people watching on NCTV can hear us. So if you could speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry, I was just saying, it's an accessory building that we would
Okay.
use for storage, workshop, shed. I mean, because we thought we may someday want to get involved with 4-H as a, national program because we support it. That doesn't mean that it has anything to do with the use of this accessory building. It's an accessory building. It's a shed or, whatever it can be used for.
Just for our information, basically. Yeah, it really has no impact on...
It's not really a relevant topic.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, sir?
Sure.
Please state your name and address.
Timothy Martin, 40 Turner Street. Thank you. A few questions.
Is it on? And repeat your name and address.
Should be. Green light.
No?
No.
Try again, Tim. Just talk into it.
There it is.
All right.
Tim Martin, 40 Turner Street. A few questions. Believe me, the idea of having animals is wonderful.
I live across the street, have a small farm, so rescue and things like that, and animals are wonderful. Some of my concerns with this...
Closer.
Some of my concerns...
Want this one? Sounds like yours bought the farm, so to speak.
Sorry, Tim.
All right, I think I'm back.
Oh, very good.
So some of my concerns from the plan were that the structure near the front is labeled home. I don't know where the septic was on that. I don't think it's on the plan. A concern about having two houses on one lot.
That's not in our plan.
Okay, sir?
I'll go through the chair.
Yes.
I won't have dialogue that way. So my question's relative to that, and just a point to note that if that's going to be an accessory building, zoning should be checked for that, as far as, I think it's within the setback, and it's in the front yard. That may want to be addressed before we get too far into the plans. I hate to see them keep going back and forth with plans. But the bigger issue is what some other folks asked about the 4-H and so forth, and the applicant can address this, and I hope they do. We saw their track record, their history in Rentham, where they had 4-H rescue, whatever you want to classify it as, kennels, dog daycare, all of the above. And whether they can have that or not is a zoning issue, but what it means for the conservation is, where does all this activity take place? Where do people park? Where do people walk to? In the public. So those aren't small issues, I don't think, unless the applicant can address them and mitigate that. Those are my bigger issues from a broader standpoint.
That's right, I'm over there.
And again, I love animals. We live across the street. Everyone has a nice property. Everyone works hard to take care of it. We hope to see a better track record than what I saw in the file and driving by in Rentham. And I hope the applicant and the engineer can address all that.
Okay, let's take, I guess, one by one. Russ, septic system?
It's not shown on the plan. I don't know where it is. I'm gonna guess, and I can have the guys at Dunn McKenzie address that, but if I was gonna bet money, it'd probably be over here somewhere under where the gardens and all that.
So for the next meeting, we would like that
Yeah.
to be seen.
Is that the current septic system that's existing? Okay.
Yeah, the new one is out here.
Okay. But yeah, if they could put it on the plan so we could review it prior to next month's meeting.
Yep, absolutely.
Caitlin, do you want to address some of the other concerns the resident has?
So I am waiting to hear back on whether or not a special permit would be needed through either planning or ZBA to have have an additional single-family home along with the existing structure. And if a special permit is needed before the commission, it's my understanding anyways that before the commission can issue an order of conditions, any permits that are needed from other boards have to at least have been applied for.
And it starts with the building department, correct?
Not
Well,
building, for a special permit
through the ZBA.
through ZBA.
Do you know if any of those, is that being requested, do you know?
No, I know that it hasn't. No,
So
we're starting here and then, kind of branching out from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for the record, can I just say, we're not looking for an occupancy permit for that building. We have no intention of it being a dwelling unit. I mean, I can obviously see you can't have two dwelling units on one lot for the zoning, but it's an accessory building and not a home or a apartment or anything. I mean, and that's not our intent to use it as such.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks.
existing.
And it's got a current septic system, but they're gonna add a different one?
Yeah.
The first one, will the first one remain functional?
I assume it will be.
And that'll be for the existing house?
Existing, yeah.
And
Yeah, for whatever future plans for the existing structures in this area, may or may not, evolve over time. It's, that's a bit in the future. I mean, right now, for purposes of this filing, it's just, the house, septic driveway, barn, and drinking water well. Yeah. I mean, all that stuff, for anything over here, like if they wanted to upgrade the fencing or anything like that, we'd be back in front
Okay.
of you folks anyways.
any other comments?
I have plenty.
Start,
Well, for starters, just so I can put my eyes on this, where is this property located? Is this up at the top where the barn is?
Right at the very end.
Very end.
Very end, yeah. The last house on the left, which was just recently sold, these lots were split off of that larger piece.
Okay, because we have a farm on the other side of the road.
Correct. Yeah, Bill Greaves and
Bill
place
Greaves,
over
right.
there. Yep.
Okay, that's one. Two is, this driveway you're talking about going in, is that existing already, or is that gonna be?
No.
It's not? And it's
No.
going through wetlands,
Nope, it's going through buffer zone.
or through the buffer zone?
Yeah.
So I gotta wait, obviously, we're gonna postpone, continue this,
Oh, yes.
but until Caitlin makes all her decisions on what's going on there. Three is, Val, maybe you can put some light on the subject, but I was used to 4-H. Isn't that horse, isn't that?
Anything.
Animal, it's
Anything, it can go from community service, public speaking,
To-
robotics.
Right, but
Animals.
To
to animals and horse riding and corrals and all that kind of.
So I don't know what their plan is with the 4-H
Well, I
program,
mean, maybe we would just like to know what their intent is on that a little bit. I mean, because we do have wetlands there and such, and horsemen, I mean, I grew up with horses, and again, I'm not against any animals in that, but we're gonna have
Yeah.
a lot of horse manure or chicken, you know as well as I do, I just like a better
yeah,
grip on that.
we might need to, like, depending on what the project is, we might want to consider like a manure management plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only reason being is it's on the side where the pond, how far are we from the pond? If this goes way in, we must be getting close to the pond.
Way, good long ways away from the
Ways
pond.
from the
yeah.
pond?
Yep.
Okay, because I know there's a lot of woodland out
Probably,
there.
you know.
That's why I asked where it's
1,500 feet
located.
or so. It's
Okay.
all laying on the side of the wetland and
All right, well, those, my questions are answered, but again, I'd like to, Caitlin said she's got to still do a lot of backup
Yeah.
on this before we can make any decision.
yeah, and like I said, the whole possible, 4-H thing is in the future, and they'll be back here with another filing for all of that stuff, or whatever upgrades they were going to make, but right now, that's just,
Well, like Adam was concerned, if you've got a septic system up front already that's active, you're putting another one on the same property. If that building is, as I was told or heard, is going to be storage and that, what do you need a septic system there for it? So that should be removed and filled in.
Yes.
Charles Hillier, so I'm the I'm architect on the project. So a couple of quick things about the accessory building.
Microphone, please.
Where is it?
Sorry.
A couple of quick things about the accessory building. So I wanted to make note, so there is a bathroom in the building. That's the reason for the septic system. So there's a full bath with the shower. In terms of being an accessory building and not being an apartment or a single-family residence, there's no cooking facilities in the accessory building. So there wouldn't be any ability to make it an apartment or a single-family residence, or there's no cooking. So if you don't have cooking, you don't have
Does it have
a
a
living
closet?
space.
Does it have a closet?
There are closets, but it would
There's not one closet.
Because closets
maybe there
make it
isn't.
a bedroom, doesn't it?
no.
But that's the building department.
No, I mean, and the other thing about that, even if there was closets in the building, I'm not sure. As you're saying, no. If you had a bedroom and you don't have a door and there's no privacy, then that's not a bedroom either. It's not a bedroom.
Okay.
If there's no cooking, it's not a livable space.
Okay. Thank you. And
There's still considerations with a second septic on the property, that even if it's not a cooking facility. And I don't mean to be difficult, but, if you're housing animals in there and you've got a septic system, I mean,
well, that's part of the Board of Health.
yes, right.
But
And it's
yeah,
not
we'll be
important to
made
solve.
aware of any concerns
Right.
they have.
Right.
Is there an existing well on the property that's being used for potable water, or
I don't think so.
is there a well going in?
No, there's no well on the property. That I
There's no
know
town
of.
water up there
Nope.
either?
No.
Because that's the other thing I know you're concerned with, is you've got to be 100 feet.
There's a well on the plan.
There's a well on the plan, sir.
There's a well.
New well about here.
Oh, okay, so there is a new well going
All right, so there is a new well going in.
Existing well, and it's confusing because the structure, Tim Martin, it's labeled home, so that's why we call it a house. I mean,
Okay.
the plan calls it a home.
I think, Dave, those are the things we got to have answered, and Caitlin can answer most of those when she does another walk.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
And we-
either way, getting a statement from the building commissioner or CBA in regards to, the status of that accessory dwelling house on, whether a special permit is needed, is, needs to be submitted before, the commission can make any determinations.
It's, I don't want to
Okay.
put the cart too far for the
All
horse
right.
yet.
Well, let's continue this till April 10th at 7:05. That work?
Yeah.
So moved.
A second.
Also, and I second.
Any further discussion from the board? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes, and we'll see you in April.
As much.
Thank you. And thank you, owners and support and neighbors. Okay, next is 2 Clark Street, the MCI facility. There was an emergency certificate request on February 28th for immediate reaction to release the number 2 fuel oil from an underground storage tank. I signed the papers, or the permit, requested by Caitlin, and I'll allow her to continue that after everybody leaves.
Is there anyone on Zoom for this?
Nobody's on Zoom tonight.
Okay. The LSP for the project was going to try to make it tonight to go over the results of the underground storage tank removal, which occurred March 5th or 6th, I believe. But anyways, so a request was submitted on February 28th. I went out there that same day to do the site inspection. And the request was being made because they were ordered by Mass DEP Waste Site Cleanup to remove the tank by April 3rd. So at the site, I noted, the absorbent booms that have been placed. You can see there the white. They look like erosion control barriers, but they're to absorb any contaminated flood waters. And prior to, after the spill was noted, they placed absorbent booms and pads in the wetlands, which is to the right in this picture. Because during the flood, essentially the whole parking lot was under at least a foot of water.
Sir, could you, Elaine, close the door?
So I noted kind of an odor, a petroleum odor in the parking lot, along with coloration consistent with number two fuel oil. I also noted coloration within the wetlands on some of the vegetation. I believe I have a picture showing that. That's just more parking lot here, so you can see the vegetation is stained black. To me, it seemed that there was a petroleum odor, although at that point it was hard to tell because it's in such close proximity to the parking lot. But either way, one of the conditions of the emergency cert was to do a complete analysis of that area and submit a remediation plan or revegetation plan, based on what the results of that analysis are.
Excuse me, that water, standing water, is that coated?
No, that it looks like there's a sheen on the water there, but I think that's just from the camera flash.
Reflection, okay.
I just noted the staining.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering if it was in the water itself. It probably is.
There was a slight sheen on some of the ponded water in the parking lot near the where the tank was, and so yeah, the tank it was removed. They pumped oil and oily water out of the bottom of the tank before they removed it. I'm not exactly sure the quantities on those. I haven't received the write-up from that yet. But as it stands, I think the conditions of the emergency cert are sufficient in order to do the remediation work that's required by DEP waste site cleanup, and also, in regards to the wetlands and the purview of this board. And I believe I included the attachment that went along with the emergency cert that just details all the conditions.
Yes.
So they installed, a erosion control barrier along with that, those absorbent booms that were shown on the previous picture. Material, equipment, stockpile, or laydown areas were to be located outside the 100-foot buffer zone. And there were several areas in that parking lot that outside the 100-foot buffer that, they were able to store equipment. And the assessment or the further sampling and assessment activities are ongoing. And then depending on those results, either way, they'll be submitting an after-the-fact notice of intent to the commission by April 24th. So that would be on the May agenda.
Okay. Any questions for Caitlin? Any comments from the audience? Okay. Then, I will accept a motion to ratify the emergency certificate.
Bob Zucker moves, we vote to ratify the emergency certificate for number 2 Clark Street.
Second?
Bellstone, I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it passes. Moving on. King Philip Trail.
Actually,
18's up.
18 Main is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jumping the gun. 18 Main Street, there is an enforcement order. Caitlin?
Yeah, so Bill Halsing is here from Land Planning. I don't know if you, I spoke with the property owner earlier today, and he mentioned that you might have materials to submit to. Okay.
Might be me. I'm here to speak on behalf of Paul.
Okay. You also.
Paul Ruggiero, I live at 20 Main Street, and he had called me.
Okay, wait.
Oh. Good evening. My name is Bo Ruggiero, live at 20 Main Street.
Perfect. Thank you.
And my wife and I have been residents there since September of 1974. And Paul is our newest neighbor out back. And unfortunately, he's caught in Mississippi. So he asked me if I would come up because to give somewhat of a historical perspective on what I've seen over those 50 years in that property. So if I may, back at the original...
Elaine, do you have the photographs, the aerials? Let's get those up before we get into the discussion. Okay.
Okay, so back in the 70s, the Paquettes, an elderly couple at the time to us, lived up there. It was almost a summer home, a very pristine piece of property. Someone akin to on Golden Pond, if anybody's been around to see that motion picture. And we would go up there and visit with them and walk down the side of the hill onto, you couldn't call it a man-made path, but it was man-made because people walked on it. And we walked down to the lake. You could swim in the lake, you could canoe in the lake. He had a boathouse there, and there was a pier. Well, after the Paquettes moved, another resident came in, and fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you're looking at it, they cut down all the beautiful trees that made that place so quaint and pristine. All the pine trees that were out there, he cut them all down so that there would be more sunlight. And again, some perspective on it, he fenced in the area and put grass, but he had goats because he didn't want to mow the lawn. And because those trees were all cut, there's a huge, beautiful granite stone on the perimeter. And when it rained, because the trees weren't there any longer, it started eroding a little bit. And then as the years went by, with this particular resident, lots of stuff was going on, so we didn't go down that same path as often. And then when he left, there was a third person that bought the property, refer to him as G, and he went, and ultimately the property was declared abandoned. It was lived in by some people. No one knows. The police had to come and so forth. But it seemed to me that over the years, and that's why Paul has asked me, that area that's being talked about that he asked me to speak to has got progressively worse because at one point the previous owner, Gene, they would throw couches, they were cutting down all kinds of stuff. It got so bad that my wife and I never even went back there. And if you've been back in that property, it's a beautiful nature area. So it would appear to me that whatever's been done there, water coming off or people cutting down stuff before this guy even moved in, has contributed to a lot of problems that perhaps he looked to fix up by putting some stuff down. I don't know that end, but I wanted the commission to know that over the years, it's gone from a wonderful, beautiful piece of property, and through the years that we've seen it over the 50, it got to be in terrible condition. Trucks left back there, tractors left back there, and you could see the property going downhill. And the space that I think everybody's talking about that goes down there, that ended up being like a dump. They were just throwing stuff down there and no one ever knew anything because it's so far back in the woods. So I'm not quite sure if it affect any of the erosion or affect anything over the years, but I do know that the property was a mess for a long time. And I think the guy has tried to improve, because you couldn't walk down there before you lived there because the way the water was coming off the big granite, and the way it was going down, it was just wrecking all kinds of stuff. And the vegetation on the side of each of it was growing out of control because no one ever took care of anything. So that's my thought for a little historical perspective on that piece of property. It was pristine, it went downhill, and I think it's coming back a little bit to at least a very, very presentable piece of property.
Okay. Oh, I appreciate your historical. No, I don't think so. I think you just helped us with the history of the property and how it got to where it is.
Sure. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Engineer? You know the routine.
Yeah, Bill Helsing, land planning. Yeah, since our site walk, I think this is on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a chair there? Make you comfortable.
Yeah. Certainly since our site walk,
The microphone closer.
we have put some thought into how to remedy the situation. And certainly, we're looking for feedback from the commission, who's now seen the site, and what exactly you folks will be looking for an enforcement. Looking at it, and part of what we discussed on Saturday was the only real unstable area was where the sand was placed, and plus some erosion from years and years of water running downhill as gravity will take it. So what we were looking at as a potential remedy is putting a silt sock for an erosion control barrier at the toe of the slope of the disturbed soil, and getting some hydro seed with a good strong erosion control mix, and put mulch down over the whole thing without moving additional soil.
The whole bank?
Yeah. Because if we start touching material, it's just going to erode more.
Okay. Caitlin?
So, sorry. So for the slopes as well as the flat areas, the idea would be to place seed mix and then wood chips.
A mulch.
A mulch.
Yeah, with good strong roots to hold the material in place. And we have done some research, and there's a local company who does have such a product, which will get specifications if that's acceptable to the commission.
Who's the company?
Paul had actually researched when I talked to him today. He told me, but I don't remember.
Okay.
When I talked to him, I think he said it was Norman something out of Walpole. And he couldn't remember the name of the exact seed mix. But,
So they hydro-seed it?
Yeah, there's, a good number of seed mixes out there that are used along slopes that come up really quickly and provide stabilization. I think looking at this photo, the areas up the slope from where that picnic table is, I think, hydro seeding and placing mulch as essentially a soil amendment would be appropriate. Where the picnic table is, I think that some type of netting as well as seeding would be more appropriate. That's essentially just straight sand. You need to add a lot of soil amendments to really get anything to grow there. And even if you were to get stuff to grow there, there's really not much for the roots to latch onto.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as, immediate actions, I think stabilizing the slope as well as the area around the picnic table, should take place as soon as possible, especially heading into, potentially rainy season in the spring. And then as far as all the other requirements in the enforcement order, I don't have any amendments to. I think that, I believe you said you were working on putting a plan together.
Yeah, we certainly can, but we wanted feedback because we're not sure a plan is necessary, but whatever the commission requests, certainly will do.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a plan to establish where all the jurisdictional boundaries are, so the commission has an idea of where things are related to the bank of Highland Lake. There's some wetlands that are probably more than 100 feet away on either side, but those areas should be evaluated, and if there are wetlands, flagged, have them put on the plan. And then with the after the fact filing, quantify the amount of buffer zone impacts, and that way, the commission can decide whether or not those buffer zone impacts require any sort of mitigation.
So would we be looking at filing a notice on this, or just answering the enforcement order?
Considering the fact that, work is within the 50-foot notice derb, I think a notice of intent would be appropriate here.
Do we have concern with the beach area? Because it was man-made and added on, correct? Or is it historical?
Yeah, I think some, like the straw netting down there might be appropriate. It wasn't 100% clear whether or not that beach area is just washout from sand that was placed along the slope, or where that picnic bench is. But definitely, coming up with a way to stabilize that as well would be a good idea.
Okay. Any comments from the commission?
I have a few.
Okay.
I wasn't paid by the homeowner, just so you guys know. I know Paul. I've dealt with Paul and the gentleman on the top of the hill. I've been out there many years ago. The beach area we're referring to, yes, I believe sand was brought in, but that was open when I was there 10 years ago. Bo spoke about trash. There were squatters, I will put it that way, living in that house and destroyed the place, and there was trash on the embankment all the way down to the bottom of the... So, from what I saw, yes, he brought in stone, he did bring in stuff and fill, but most of what was there was there. What I'm hearing from Caitlin now is what I was going to talk to the board about, is replacing the vegetation, because there was vegetation that was there that the new homeowner did remove. Obviously, we have stone dust, we have paths, that was all like vegetation. So that, in my eyes, also contributed to more erosion than would have happened if he had left that stuff alone. But there were couches, chairs, car tires, I saw it all firsthand. And the guy did do a good job of cleaning that up. So I just want to make sure, I did see it personally. I would have waterlined 2 of them out there, and I was in the house, and it was quite the mess. And people did destroy it, and it was like a dump. I at first thought it was a campground when I first went out there. I didn't even know the house existed. That being said, we still have some things that were, the little jet out on the far, if you look straight into that, past that tree where there's stone placed, that little
Yeah.
that wasn't there. That was man-made, but the well house was there. I didn't see it that much. And the path out to where the dock is, I didn't see that either, because that was further. But that almost looks like it was been there for a while. And he really didn't bring any material in that area. But as far as what we're seeing right in front of us here, the stones and that, a lot of that he did bring in a place there, there's no doubt. So.
Just to add on to that, yeah, we do have plans on file from when the town purchased Fales Park that do show that path.
Okay.
The one...
to the dock area? Or the other?
It kind of loops around to 14 Main Street.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Along the edge of the lake. So that path was existing.
Okay.
The thing I see here is by removing the vegetation, that whole hill all the way down was all vegetation, and it kind of wasn't cut out as much as where we have tiers now.
Yeah.
It was a straight, see you later, gone down the hill, but there was, I can vouch, as Bo said, there was a ton of trash in there that he did remove. And, obviously he had to get to the stuff. So, again, I'm not an advocate for the person that owns the property. I'm just saying what I saw 8 to 10 years ago when I was there for quite a few weeks doing work out there. So.
Yeah, take the microphone, please.
I think this one.
Go for it.
Just as a historical perspective, that sand beach was there in 1974. I don't know anything about this next area where the the chair and the park benches, but it may be that that's where the sand beach was at one point, because the lake has really changed over the 50 years. But below where if you take a look at where the park bench is, below that to the water, there was always a sand beach. You could actually go there and go swimming back in the day. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
So can he keep the beach as existing? Caitlin, when you say erosion control, where would that be being put? Along the beach, the water edge?
So I think placing something at the top
Or at
of
the
the
top of the
slope,
hill?
and even potentially at the edge of the second tier, we'll call it, above the beach.
Okay, so you're talking to try and prevent the runoff from the rock doing more damage. So we're going to put something erosion control there.
And then
Yeah,
seed the bank.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted clarification on where that was, okay.
I
Got
think having some sort of silt sock on either at the top and, at the bottom of the slope is important. Having it at the top of the slope would prevent, runoff from, the granite rock from washing away any seed mix that does get placed there. And just, I think the immediate need for stabilization is the top priority. And then, once the commission has a plan to look at with, the boundaries, can make, I think, and my recommendation would be to wait on exactly what sort of after the fact filing the commission would like to see until there's an actual plan put together. At this point, it's hard to make those calls without knowing, the amount of buffer zone disturbance, distances, things like that.
Okay. So really what's in front of us is to vote to ratify the emergency certificate. So I'll accept a motion to ratify that.
Oh, no.
No,
That's on-
Oh,
that's-
I'm sorry.
Wrong one, Dave.
Wrong one.
All right.
Yeah, so the enforcement order was ratified.
Yes.
And the conditions of the enforcement order were left a little bit open-ended as far as the after-the-fact filing. And I think at this point, until, we have more information, particularly the, the engineered plan, that language, should stay as is and, potentially could be amended once there's more information.
Should we request an NOI at this time, or no?
I mean, I don't
think so. We'll
see,
wait, but-
yeah, I
that.
don't see the issue in waiting to receive that additional information. Considering that, it's the stabilization of the slope is already in the works.
Okay.
As you mentioned, or I forget who mentioned, Paul couldn't make it tonight. He's driving back. I think he was actually in Virginia when I talked to him.
Yeah, he was quite a way away.
Yeah. But he, he's trying to, forward me the quote for the hydro seeding, and I told him to
Caitlin, is the
focus
hydro
on
seeding going to be grass, or is it going to be a mix like we usually require with flowers?
So it'll be
and-
a mix. And so he was going to send me the proposal along with the specs for that. I can't remember. I believe I've worked with Norman in one way or another. Actually, they hydro seeded 15 Lincoln Road. That was it, and they actually got grass to take there.
So these areas will be determined by, you're going to specify or let them know where you want it to be put down, like up top maybe where the ledges or the, just below that. The
Yeah.
homeowner was planting blueberry bushes or what have you, but
That's not
that's
enough.
not enough.
Yeah, the seed mix for, the immediate stabilization needs to come before, other plantings.
Okay.
So to understand that, before we even file the notice of intent with all the stuff we need, we should get erosion control in place?
Correct.
Should we hydro seed at this point, or should we wait till it is approved by the commission?
If it's okay with the board.
No one's
I-
going to fault you for hiring.
Doing it now. Yeah. Now's the time to do it. We get spring here, and it's...
The worst,
Yeah, looking at rains and
Yes.
whatever.
the worst that could happen is someone could come along and say, can you do a little more here or there? But I
That's why I
mean,
said is it at Caitlin's recommendation, because she
Yeah.
can go out and tell her, I want here,
Right.
where we
Yeah,
want it.
we certainly want to have action more sooner than later.
Exactly.
And how does the commission feel about the crushed stone that's in place for the pathways?
So I think that would be handled under an after-the-fact filing of some sort, whether or not it can stay, whether or not it needs to be removed, or if it does stay, this amount of mitigation needs to take place.
Some big stone should be put on as you go down on the right-hand side where all the erosion is, correct? I would think that'd be part of the mitigation.
Well, we'd have to see, Dave, I think, where the plantings, what happens with that, and then we can determine whether we need to put stone or anything else to stop the...
What timeline are we doing for the engineer plan?
We're out a little bit.
Okay.
That's why we should get it stabilized and, follow up with the plan with everything on it at a later date. I don't have a date right now.
You think you'd be ready for the April meeting, April 10th, or?
That would be tough.
Okay.
Because I got to get Russ out there to flag it, then we got to survey it, so
Okay.
if we can push out till maybe even May would be okay with us?
We don't have to decide tonight, correct?
I think maybe requiring, just a memo with an update for the April meeting on where everything stands. It sounds like, the stabilization efforts are going to be taking place soon. And, beyond that, just, memo detailing, where the plans are. And, I would think at that point, an estimated date would be more,
Okay.
more known.
Yeah, I would think if you keep Caitlin up to par, on what's going on, so that she can tell us,
Sure.
at least at the next meeting, what's been done so far.
Yes.
The letter of action plan would be essential.
Isn't there a lot of gravel at the top of the hill where the stabilization needs to happen?
Yeah, it's like inch and a
Yeah.
half stone.
Yeah. Are you gonna hydro seed over that, or are you gonna remove that?
Well, that's a good question, because the homeowner certainly would like access to the lake. So, the crushed stone, maybe something a little bigger, but bigger stone doesn't wash out as much, but it's hard to walk on. And we're looking at an elderly homeowner here, and,
We were there. That was part of the main erosion area.
Yeah.
I understand access to the lake and all.
Yeah.
But on that right, where he's got the blueberry bushes, where it comes down, that corner could be, as Dave said, rocks put in there, build it up with some material maybe, and then plantings in it,
Yeah.
to try and when the water comes down that ledge, it's got somewhere to pond up instead of ripping right down the hill.
Yeah, you thinking on that pathway that goes straight down?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side.
On the right-hand side of that, because what he's done now is he's created a berm, and he's trying to deflect it from going down the hill into the pond, and where the, let's say, beach area is,
Yeah.
going down the path to where the dock is. And it's not really happening, but he's gonna, we're gonna have to put something in there to make it so that it will do that, but you probably want to more so up top stabilize it, so it can't.
Yeah.
It won't.
Yeah, and it's a hard one with that
It is a
steep
tough
slope.
one, but, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And
But that'll be part of the engineer plan, right?
Action plan, yeah.
Yeah, see what we come up with.
Hey, yeah, be
Yeah.
creative. Okay. Thank you for coming,
Oh,
Bill.
thank you.
We have to continue this? Continue it till the 8th?
No.
It's not a public hearing, so it doesn't need to be
Doesn't need to be,
continued.
Do we put it on our agenda for April, though, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah,
Under old
Just-
business.
under,
Yeah.
yeah, old business.
Okay.
Since it sounds like it'll just be an update. So,
Okay.
That brings us to King Philip Trail. 14? Or
so there are
19, yes.
photos there as well. Seems to be
Ready?
Yes, thank you.
All righty. Caitlin, you can begin when you're ready with all the photos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just trying to.
Yep.
And then photos.
That's wetlands or town-owned property, don't belong on it. So that's one of my questions I have.
Next one.
Which one are you pointing to?
This one, the representative. Keep going. That's good in there.
What's that?
Okay, so an on-site was conducted this past Saturday, March 9th,
With the commission.
with the commission, with the homeowners
So it goes on a while.
in Abutter and their representation, Jim DeVellis. During the on-site, I looked at the soil profile in several different spots along this peninsula area using a hand auger. And in general, I found what was, in my professional opinion, recently placed filled material with a buried O horizon underneath. The buried O horizon was consistent with the soil mapping for that area. So it was a black muck material. The fill material was a medium to coarse sand with 25 to 35% gravel. It was pretty packed down. And within the fill material, and even I noted at the bottom of what I described as the fill layer on top of the buried O, there was a lot of different types of organic material, including wood chips that were fresh, roots from vegetation that were had no signs of decomposition, which you would see if the fill had been more historic. And I got several different ranges. I think the farthest down the fill went was about halfway through, or the midway point of this peninsula. The bottom of the fill layer was 26 inches down. In other areas, it was 12 and 18, so it didn't seem to be consistent. I was able to, there was kind of a second peninsula area, as I'll call it, just for lack of a better term, where I documented, a natural soil profile with an OA, and B horizon. That was also consistent with the NRCS soil mapping.
That would be if you were on the peninsula looking at the house on the left-hand side, that bank?
If from this picture, you're looking
Back at the house.
You're looking east across Stop River towards Fales Park, the town-owned Fales Park property. And then to the south of this area, there's another kind of naturally occurring peninsula where I documented that natural
okay.
soil profile. I also noted that the stones seen around the perimeter of this area appeared to be recently placed. There are additional like stone walls on the property that show signs of weathering and discoloration consistent with age that I didn't note on these. There was along the edge, the perimeter, there's evidence of recent cutting of shrubs, and then obviously as shown in this picture, you can see the wood chips that were placed on top of the fill material.
Okay. Engineer, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Jim DeVellis. I'm a professional civil engineer with DeVellis Serene. With me tonight is Linda Benton, her husband Everett Benton, and their daughter Samantha Benton. So they were also at the site walk, and thank you for coming out Saturday. So from an engineering perspective, I'm a soil evaluator. I understand modeling and depths, and there's no dispute that area is fill. There's no doubt. I saw the O layer and the fill on top of it. The question is when did that happen? So I had asked the family to come. They've been there since the 70s.
51 years.
Yeah, and stewards of the land. They've got a long history of working in and around that area. So I thought it'd be beneficial to at least hear from what they did or didn't do in their perspective of why some things are the way that they are. And then I can answer any of the technical questions. One thing that kind of came to my mind when I was looking at the hand augers, and if you go, the picture that you see there with the water and then the top of the soil that goes out, the difference is about 8 inches. So if you dig down 24 inches before you get the O layer, or where the natural occurring stuff is, you're into the water by 16 inches. So if you remove that fill, then you've got a hole 16 inches deep, and the peninsula would not be there. The trees would not be there. Some of the areas around, you can see that they're at the base of the tree. So, something doesn't make sense here. That's why I'd asked the family to come and talk about, their involvement with any fill, or, it could have been 50 years ago, 20 years ago, what have you, but if you look at the aerials, then those peninsulas shouldn't be there if the fill was not brought in at all, because it would be underwater.
Okay. Who's going to speak and state your name and where you live and go
What I was
on?
going to do is I've got a couple things. I've got a little demo.
Mom, you have to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Microphone's over here.
Oh, you want to take that one?
Or you could sit up in a nice comfy
You wanna
chair.
sit here? You wanna
Make
sit?
sure the green light's on. The green one's on. And just... Is this better?
No, Lynn, we can't hear you. Can we start and then we'll get to that in a second?
Okay.
Sorry. She's got hearing aids and...
I have 2 hearing
so-
aids. What I was gonna do is introduce my daughter. All right, Samantha, she was born and brought up here. And she has a background, her bachelor's was in marine biology and waterways, and she worked for the New England Aquarium, and she's worked for Nova.
So I'm a nature geek, essentially.
So I'm gonna have her do some talking. I also have, can I show my one demo?
No, after.
No.
trying to save everybody some time. So Samantha Benton, 6 King Phillip Trail, formerly 19 King Phillip Trail for 30 years. So I'm a born and bred Norfolkian. I have a couple questions to help with some understanding the logic behind some of the items that were reported. My first one, with a little bit of background for those that haven't heard it yet. It's based on the fact that for the past couple years, after multiple attempts of reaching out and asking for help of Caitlin as well as others in town to proactively address the issues with the floodwaters and the mismanagement of the lake causing erosive currents, what is being done as part of this analysis to address the satellite images back to 2001 that demonstrate this buffer, riparian buffer, that's the proper name for this point, disappearing by more than half since 2001. I have not heard that addressed. I would like for the members of the committee to pass out the satellite images so that we can discuss them, where it clearly shows the land being significant back in 2001, and today, 2024, it's now decreased by half, if not more. Traditionally, I would expect if land was being filled and brought in, you would see decrease, 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 increase, decrease, decrease. But instead, these photos, satellite images, clearly show a pattern of continuous degradation. And I would like to address how come this is not coming up into discussion and analysis to address what's happening.
Okay. Caitlin, why don't you start off with why we're here?
The issues related to any, management of the lake. I know there was questions about the debris.
Could you speak up a little bit more?
Is irrelevant to this enforcement order. Floodway, so yes, it's riparian area, but it's also floodway and land underwater as defined under the Wetlands Protection Act and the Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
Which means nature takes its course.
Correct.
So are we?
So
I have a question.
In times of heavy flooding, that area is going to be underwater. In times when the water level's lower, it's going to be above water. The floodplain. The flood study dating back to the 60s has always identified that area as floodway. And I have looked through the different aerial years and not knowing the exact date they were taken, what time of year, it's hard to actually compare them. If you're looking at it at the end of the summer, when water is typically at its lowest point, you're going to see a larger peninsula. If the aerial is taken in the spring, you're not going to see as much land area because that's the time of year when water is typically higher. And then that's discounting any years where there might have been a drought or higher than average rainfall. From my perspective, I'm just looking at what I'm seeing on site currently, and some of the latest aerials from near map and application that is utilized by the town that shows a significant difference between October of 2023 and March of 2023, where it's evident.
March of 24?
No, March of 2023. where you see what is the peninsula without the, the perimeter stone wall. And it was at least partially vegetated with, it was green. And then in October, you see the appearance of the rock wall and an unvegetated area, which I now understand was wood chips. So in my opinion, the fill was placed sometime in between March 2023 and October 2023.
Okay.
May I
Yes.
respond with another question?
Yes.
I will be passing out additional photos since March of 2023 that demonstrates this land has been underwater more months than it has been not, that it has been at this rate. And as the committee members and Caitlin, who came out Saturday, saw, the water was already in a flooding state and had already gone down after the recent small rain we had that week prior. We are seeing this land underwater significantly. And since we're not answering the question as to the degradation of the land, the size of the land, I just want to point out, how could anything happen if it's underwater? No equipment, and I would believe there are members here today that could attest, there isn't any equipment that can move such items, heavy equipment, with it being underwater. One of those photos you will see, you can barely see the rocks that are being exposed by the flood currents. We have photos going back to the 80s when there was a significant amount of soil in that location. And even other photos in here that I can demonstrate today of just how much mud has been disappearing during these frequent flood events.
Now, pause, I know she doesn't want to talk about it.
You gotta sit next to me.
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
You know-
I apologize.
Right here.
I apologize. Thank you, sir. The flooding, I know we don't want to talk about cause and effect, and I understand global warming, and I understand there's going to be more flooding than not. However, since the town has bought the lake, which they did, and nobody made a clear definition of how to manage the lake, the culverts is what I believe Caitlin's calling it. There's 4 culverts that help manage the flow of water to the dam. Those, for 45 years, my husband and I, we nicely went out there and used to remove all the debris 2 to 3 times a year, which allowed the water to flow. Now that is what's causing, in addition to any weather and all the other stuff that happens in the world, is causing that to remain constantly underwater. And I know she's going to do for more, but just think about it. Why on earth would 2 elderly people, 80, with Parkinson's, and me, the younger, 73, fill? What would be I can't even imagine why I'd want to fill the property or bring rocks to. We don't need it. We don't, who at this point cares how big their land is?
Okay. No, thank you. Commissioners?
I have plenty to say. Number one is, when we have heavy rains in this town, we have flooding. That water has to go somewhere. As you know, and you even referred to, by the prison, it was underwater to the point where the road was closed.
Correct.
When that water does let go, it runs rapidly. You have erosion. That peninsula was there. Where do you think the material on that peninsula and stuff's going to go? It's going to stay there and say, oh, the water can rip by here, but I'm going to stay here and hold it all, and it's going to go over the top and wash it away. That's number one. Number two, there was visual wood chips all the way out to the end of that peninsula. Those didn't get there by a beaver. They were put there physically.
No.
Oh, wow, sorry.
Physically, they were put there by a
Thank you.
human. 3 is you have gave us pictures showing that peninsula, and on those pictures, I do not see all those rocks formed all the way around the whole thing. I do see rocks there, and yes, there are a few I'll point out to you that were there, and they've probably been there forever. But there's also a lot of rocks that I noticed with my own eyes that are nice, clean, white-colored rocks that were placed there. Whether it was by you, ma'am, your husband, or somebody else. They were put there specifically. There was a little area that I asked your neighbor that was there that was all placed with rocks, and they told me that's where your dog enters the pond so it can go swimming and stuff, and that was physically made by a human. I also brought up to your daughter's attention that I saw shrubs, vegetation that was cut physically by a human, not by a beaver. So, in saying what I'm saying here is, someone has been maintaining that peninsula like it's land that should be activity on and recreation, and it's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be for the wildlife and the animals that live out there on that lake. So just, if you don't mind,
No,
my
good point.
commissioners, that was my observation. Not only that, but looking at this picture here, if you're standing right here looking out there, to the right-hand side, you have another small like peninsula going out. I brought to Caitlin's attention, and my colleagues also saw fresh dirt, like Phil had been just brought in within the last 6 months. And I'm sorry, but Caitlin was going to take pictures of it, but I saw it physically with my eyes. Now, whether Phil got brought in and put there, or somebody did some kind of movement there, because there were no leaves on it, there was no dirt, there's nothing, it was dirt with rocks. So, with that being said, from what I see there, somebody has been maintaining this peninsula for years. Not just the last year or so, for years.
And I think your comments are well taken. I think all the commissioners that went out there saw the same things and have the same questions. Now it's your turn.
Go ahead.
Well, a couple of things. Those
Go,
li-
Nate, get the speaker closer to
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. The little rocks you saw where my granddogs do go out, shame on me, but Barbara Bartholomew, town historian, came out and showed me where the weir was. Weir is like a fish ladder. It's what the Native Americans used. Barbara had me go in, and the weir comes up to here, all right? And believe it or not, in the 1600s, supposedly that's what they used to catch their fish. So there was about a third of the rocks there, not all that you saw. You saw them, they're about that big, right? I put those there at the coaxing of Barbara. Now, that's my shame, I didn't know enough to check with you guys.
Let me interrupt you for a minute now. Barbara Bartholomew, God rest her soul, has nothing to do with what's going on.
I understand.
Well, I think
I'm just telling you my reasoning.
Okay.
I'm not.
I just want to let you know that
I'm not
doesn't, she's not
Sir,
the one
if
that
I'm
wants us
wrong-
She's agreeing with the fact of what you just
Yes,
said.
yes.
That she maintained that.
Okay.
That's what I was trying
With
to do.
advice.
Explaining her reasoning.
Yep.
Because she told me
Was
that.
it obviously now why we're here and wrong? Yes.
Yeah, did I not do that?
No, that's not why we're here. That's immaterial. We're here for the peninsula.
Yep.
This is the peninsula.
That is.
No, that was the dog
That's
area.
the dog
that you're
area at the
talking
end of the
about.
peninsula.
That's at the
It's
end.
Okay, I don't know, because I wasn't able to go.
Wait, Mom.
But
Can I
yes,
show you?
Yes,
it's right at the end of the peninsula.
Right there.
yeah.
So I was in, he brought that up. He brought that up as a point. The other,
May I get back to just answering the two aspects? When the site visit took place and you asked, did we cut this? And you pointed to it. I said, yes, I did. Because we have Japanese barberry and buckthorn, and I cut it thinking I was removing invasives and allowing for natives, as I mentioned, to do better.
And I understand that.
And no, I'm just saying, you said that, and I'm agreeing with what you said. I'm not trying to hide it.
And do you agree with me that you shouldn't be removing invasives either? Any
That's
invasives?
We have learned.
Okay, I'm
Yes.
just making that
No,
point
your-
now.
Your point is well made, as far as the small rocks I moved. I did not know that. Ignorance is not bliss, I understand that. The other thing, when you said the cuttings, my demo, this is what you see for what you used to see. I'm sorry, I'll clean it up, don't worry.
That's all right.
All right, and this is what was all along the whole edge and in the middle.
Several non-native blueberry bushes planted by the previous owner.
What you
Non-native
saw,
blueberry
what I
bushes?
saw,
There are some non-native blueberry bushes.
and what I did
Or at
wrong.
least they were brought in by the previous owner. They're
It was an excavator.
significantly,
It was an excavator. So when these bend over, you can see it's not cut. So I took one I didn't do anything with. And what happens, these bend over, right? And then you get the current, as you said, it's not just standing still water. You get a current, and it takes all the root with it. So what dumb I did, when I saw those bent over or broken, some by beaver, some by just I would cut here. Because if you cut these here, you save the roots. Because you're not getting all this to move down. So that is, sir, is what so I'm admitting to what I've done wrong.
I understand, and I understand what you're saying and what you were doing. All I'm trying
I'm not saying it's right.
That's all I'm trying to say is,
Yeah.
there's very little vegetation on that whole peninsula now.
That we lost.
And if you go anywhere else and look on the lake, there's vegetation all over the place, invasive and non-invasive.
may I just address that? This, as we've all established, is a floodplain. This is where all the extra water goes. This, you can't grow all that vegetation when it's underwater for months and months and months repeatedly. The trees down there, you saw there are more dead trees in that area. You saw the trees that are falling, being ripped up because they just can't be waterlogged anymore. That is clearly showing the vegetation is underwater for too long, that it can't sustain healthy, robust vegetation.
And if you go to the other side of where you are, visually looking, and I will say from number 18 Main Street, looking across to where your property is, there is tons of vegetation, and right now it's underwater, and it's doing just fine. So I'm not going to argue with you on it, but that side of the pond is doing just fine.
This is the last statement.
Okay,
We're not
last
gonna
statement.
debate this all
I'm just
night.
trying to answer his.
Okay, no, please
So I'm
do.
still responding to that. That side does not have the current
I
we
agree.
have.
I agree.
And
but-
it's now Big May, Fluffy May, goes, and I'm a swimmer. And
Can we,
I go in the water, all right, because I have go in the water to help remove debris. I get pushed over by the current.
And I'm not
you've addressed
debating.
it.
Okay,
Can
let's
Jim,
get back.
Dad, no,
I have a
please
point
don't, please don't. Can Jim address?
Let me make one point.
Okay.
Yes.
You mentioned the Main Street being flooded by the prison. You mentioned that water has to go somewhere, and it has to stop at the peninsula. The peninsula had trees and bushes and branches on both sides of it before the recent floods in the last couple of years. They all got washed away. That's why there's no surface on that peninsula, is because it all got washed away. She has one of the roots, that's when she found it was wedged in a tree. Those were plants that were growing on the peninsula that got washed away. Why did they get washed away? Because no one took care of the culverts.
And I agree with you, sir.
It's a bucket of water with a hole in it that
Okay,
isn't
then.
big enough to let the water out.
Can Jim, you address the height of the soil?
Yeah, Jim, get back to,
Thank you.
issue at hand.
Yeah, obviously, it's an emotional.
Yes.
Yes.
They've lived there for a very long time, and they're adamant that so if you look at the square footage of the peninsula, and you multiply it by 2 feet of the fill that's in there, that's about 180 cubic yards, which is about 10 or 12 full dump trucks to go in there. They're saying that between the March and the October of '23, they didn't hire, they didn't contract, there were no dump trucks. This isn't a peninsula where you can just put wheelbarrows to carry those rocks. I mean, it's been there. So we're kind of at a crossroads. The aerials show one thing, but they also may not be sensitive to the vegetation that was out there that would not have let you see the rocks, or the water may be high. If you look between the peninsula and the house, about 4 feet up, the water had gone up that high and took a big pine tree over because it was saturated. So there are times where that place is underwater, and as Caitlin said, there's times where it's a couple feet higher. But how do you fill 10 dump trucks full of material and spread it and compact it in a short window of time where they're saying they just physically haven't done that? So that's where it's a little confusing. There's no doubt that it's fill out there. I don't know if it was a year or 50 years ago, but...
Why would I do it?
Yeah, they're just contending that they haven't brought it, and there's no easy access for dump trucks to get down to that point. On the right, there was some pavers, but it's not big enough to carry a dump truck. It would be pickup trucks, probably.
And, apologize.
Yeah.
Caitlin?
Just to clarify, so 26 was the greatest depth that I saw for the fill, but in another area it was 18, and another area it was 12. So it didn't appear to be consistent throughout the whole peninsula area. So, without being able to, evaluate the entire area, it might not be, I forget how many dump trucks you said it would require.
Yeah, well, just for clarity, what I did is I took the square footage that you have on one of your graphics at 2,640 square feet, and I just multiplied it by 24 inches. So you're saying it may be 26, it may be less, but that's what I'm coming up with is 100.
You're taking an average of 26.
I'm taking an average of 24.
24.
I'm coming up with
She's saying that was no consistent
12,
depths.
yeah.
So that's at the most a double estimate of what it probably was.
Okay, so even if you half that, we're talking 7 dump
Significant
trucks.
amount of dirt.
Yeah, so my point is, it's not wheelbarrows from 2 elderly people, it's a contractor that would have had to do that, and plus the boulders that are out there.
Right.
And they couldn't get it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caitlin?
I feel that the information I was able to ascertain on the on-site, supports my initial findings, and I don't have any recommendations for any amendments to the language of the enforcement order.
Do we have a copy of that? Or what's, can you put it in a synopsis?
So essentially, evaluating the peninsula area, determining how much fill is there, and then coming up with a plan to remove it.
Okay. And then the second issue is the boulders.
Well, that would be included.
But if we could
as
separate
fill
them too. Oh, yes.
I mean, to me, it's, whether it's a medium sand or, a boulder, it's all fill material.
Okay.
Should we be concerned at all with any removal being so close to the water
So that
that it
would-
could be harmful to remove it at this point, or?
So there's mitigation that would need to be put in place when that's being removed. It could be, it could also be a time of year thing. With it being in floodway and floodplain going into, rainier time of the year, it may be best to, remove it as soon as possible. but, a plan would need to be submitted to the board for consideration.
Questions, comments?
I don't want to put a hardship on these people. I really don't. And I don't think none of us here do, okay? I'm not a professional by no means, or an engineer, or civil engineer, or anything. I just want to see if it is wetlands and that, I want to see the homeowners resist from doing anything out there in the future.
I agree with that.
Do not, I'm sorry, but again, there are wood chips that go all the way out to the end. Those didn't get there, but somebody wheelbarrowed them out there.
And I told you,
And
yeah.
I don't want to be disrespectful, understand. I understand your mom's 76 and your dad's, and I understand they didn't do it.
73.
Okay. But I've
What are you adding years
also
for?
seen what you're capable of doing, ma'am, because I know you dug about 4 and a half feet down to get to a water service line on that same property. So,
I-
that being said,
No, I am.
I don't want to see any hardship on you whatsoever.
appreciate it.
We're not here to do that. We're here to enforce the laws,
I understand.
okay? And I don't think none of my colleagues want to see any hardship on you.
And
But we have to do something
And it's,
to rectify it.
and it's, this board, I think, has always taken an attitude, we don't want to put a hardship on the applicants. But if something is wrong and really needs to be mitigated, we'll have to do it. But we'll try to work with you to minimize anything. So I see this, and, I mean, yeah, to remove all of that now,
It could be more detrimental now in my eyes, like
Yeah.
you were saying, Val, then is it really, do we need to do that?
and so maybe it would be, you remove all the wood chips, let the vegetation grow, no more cuttings, and go to law, and let it go back to nature and let nature take its course. Yes, ma'am.
Could we submit a plan on the native plantings that could possibly be placed to help mitigate
Yes.
the issues?
And given what you said, I am very capable of raking up those wood chips.
Why
What
not?
happened, it wasn't even a wheelbarrow that came out and dumped it. She came out with a wheelbarrow and did one of these.
Understandable. All I'm doing is, I'm just
No,
stating that.
I'm just,
So that they could raise.
You've been sitting, you're saying that nothing was
chestnuts.
put there by humans, kind of, but yes, we know it was. And
No, I said
And
fill.
we'd like to see that removed,
Fill,
and you have a
sorry.
great idea by, I would assume, having some kind of plantings done, Caitlin? Maybe some
capable.
kind of water type of, to put this
Well-
back to normal.
I guess what I would suggest before I have Caitlin summarize is we would want an action plan of how you can address our concerns, and all of that's included. But, what's that?
Before you close.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, we get public opinion. Caitlin?
I don't have any additional comments. I think the requirements outlined in the enforcement order are, yes, but, a hardship, but I don't see many pathways for potential, considerations or compromises, dealing with the types of resource areas we're dealing with. Floodway is technically federal jurisdiction. Army Corps has jurisdiction over that area. And if the commission were to allow that to be filled, I think that would be honestly negligent
By the commission.
by the commission.
Again, we need to do some kind of action. There's no doubt.
Okay, let's go to anybody in the audience. Please be at a microphone and state your name and address.
Hi, my name's Greg
Close.
Andrews.
Closer.
That one does
Closer?
Does it?
Is it the green light on?
Yeah, it has it on. Is it not working?
Yes, there it is.
There you go.
Gregory Andrews. I have 14 King Philip, been friends and have played on that land for a very long time. So I'm glad that the two of you started to talk about, working with the owners about this, because it kind of sounds like a lot of this is very unclear as to like when it was filled, truly the level of fill, and the overall cost of this to remove it and get the plans is enormous, and to kind of do that without having a clear determination that it was filled by them is an enormous hardship. So thank you for at least saying those points, and I'd love if the commission and the town would work with them on that, because they want to do the right thing here. And so I just want you to take that into account, that they're not going to combat you, and they want to do plantings and they want the nature, but not to put an enormous expense on top of them. So to remove all that is just an enormous undertaking, and the damage to the wildlife is that worth it, really, for the outcome, especially not knowing when it was filled and who filled it. So I just want that to be truly taken into account before the decision is made on this hearing. That's kind of my input on that.
Thank you. So I think we're at a point where we'd want an action plan for what was said in the emergency plan.
The enforcement order, yeah.
And let's review that, and then we can discuss it. We won't take any action tonight. We won't do anything. We'll continue it until April. And if we could have that in front of us a week or so before, at least a week minimum, so we all can, read about it, understand it, talk with Caitlin. Caitlin can get her professional views on what you're asking and what we're asking.
So is what you're saying to delay on making a decision to enforce the enforcement order?
Well, the enforcement order has already been.
We have to certify that, but to take any other action, we'll wait until April. We'll give them the extra month to come up with a plan. But they know what we want, basically. Well, not basically, but on paper.
So essentially, similar to 18 Main Street, just extending the time frame that was included in the enforcement order.
Yeah. Another 30 days.
And have a proposal for April.
And please don't go out there and do anything now. Don't
We won't
disturb
even touch
any
the
more out
water
there. Leave it
chestnuts.
until Caitlin's.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You saw I have a dock there, and we know that's the best dock you can get for a lake. Can I put that out?
The dog?
Yeah, you saw it's a
Dock.
portable dock.
Oh, the dock?
Yeah, that's not on the peninsula, though.
No,
is
it isn't. It's on the-
That's on the side of the
Yeah,
peninsula.
I'm just just
She
learning.
doesn't want to touch Boo.
I don't wanna-
Unless she has her.
I don't want to
okay.
touch a leaf until,
I
don't mean that
see it.
It's not that's not an attached dock, is it?
no.
Okay.
No, it's a
So
We
they-
did it,
I believe attached docks would require a Chapter 91 permit, but if it's not attached, then.
she made me go up to Canada and get one of the ones that they use at the Charles.
the Charles River Regatta.
Charles River
Because it's
Regatta
low
and all.
impact on the environment.
No,
I just tried
on
to
the
ask it.
peninsula. Just on the peninsula, you don't want to go out there and touch anything from here on out.
But
What
yeah,
about, one other question, what about glass that shows?
Oh, trash you can pick up anytime. We're not going to tell you not to pick trash up, but
Just
Well,
don't,
there's glass, there's a lot of trash. I just,
Yes.
I'm not trying to be,
yeah. No,
we're not
you can pick up trash, those type of things, but don't rake the mulch away, don't do anything else.
so keep the pods there.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I'm going through this.
I think the important thing is it's supposed to be a wildlife habitat, so you should give no indications of using it for domestic use, right?
We don't.
No, I know, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's what we want to
That's why I
see.
didn't know why I would have filled it.
We
because-
Right,
we
yeah,
get the
that's how
plan.
you-
We get the
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right, let's make a motion to continue this until the April meeting at 7:20. We try to space them close together because sometimes things will go quick and we're sitting here for a half an hour. So we make you wait a little bit, but a lot of times it just averages right out that things go right along, progress.
Well, what I'd like to
You
say
want to
is,
continue it to a certain date and time, or
The April meeting, or you want
on the
to?
April meeting, or put it under old business, considering that,
Just like we do.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with 18, yeah.
So
Yeah.
under old business for the April meeting.
correct. And since it's not being
We don't need
continued
a
to a
vote?
certain date and time, it wouldn't
No
need.
motion.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't need a motion.
Okay.
can I say something?
Final
Final
statement.
thought. You're a volunteer, and I appreciate and value what you do to help Norfolk stay as the environment it is for wildlife. So I just want to thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Thanks for saying
We
something.
appreciate it.
Thank you
Thanks
all.
for coming
Thank you.
tonight.
Appreciate it.
Don't forget your demo stuff.
Yes.
Well, I thought it helped clarify.
Make sure you put those sticks back where you got them from.
I was going to ask you that.
Only kidding, only kidding.
Yeah, they're numbered and the hole is numbered.
They'll be in our plan, don't you?
Well, I thought it showed my,
Yeah. No?
thank you, people.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay. The February 14th minutes, any discussion? Any,
I think that discussion's been made.
Yes.
all right, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of February 14th.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Correspondence, Caitlin.
So we received the Eversource 5-year vegetation management plan. It's a pretty hefty document that goes along with it. Some notable differences is that they're going to be implementing how did they term it? Integrated pest management, basically, but for invasives. So they're going to be doing chemical spraying in certain areas along their right-of-ways. Some of those areas are in town.
Do they give you the formulas or the chemicals?
No, they do not, and I'm going to send that to the Board of Health. Or I believe they also received that, but, you know,
Just
with people being
coordinate.
on private wells, you know, I think the town has another couple of months to raise any issues with water wells or critical areas. From first glance, I didn't see any like vernal pools or things like that in any of the areas they were proposing to do the spraying. So I think as far as Concom action, there likely won't be any, but I do plan to take a closer look at that to make sure.
Okay. Old business with new information. 144 Seekonk?
Yeah, so the applicant's wetland scientists put together a plan to mitigate for the sediment that had washed down into the certified vernal pool, which ultimately was hand removal. They looked at trying to get a vac truck in from either side, and it just wasn't feasible without, causing further damage. And I know they have started that work. I am not sure if it's finished or not. Once I plan on getting out there in the next week or two, or earlier, if I, hear back from the applicant that work has been completed. And then I'll, do an assessment on, the success of that remediation plan.
Okay. Anything else? In
For-
that regard?
For Seacon, no.
Okay. So the next thing is, we put a warrant article in for the town meeting, so everybody has to attend the town meeting. And it's to get money from CPC to hire a outside engineering firm like Beta to survey the trails, and for the because I would like to start an initiative to receive money that we can widen the trails, not make them ADA compliant, because that takes us into a whole different, but probably a 4-foot or 5-foot path, and some kind of combination of stone, polystone, dust stone, and packed down, so that it can be more usable by everybody. But again, it's not ADA. And once you get to the back, there's the incline, and there's no way we can put an elevator back there. So, or a zip line or something, so, a tow line.
Like a ski lift.
So, the main one will be done like that. The spur off to the right that goes up and around, we can do a lot of that, but then there'll be areas that we will have to kind of jump over and...
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Are you saying you've got a placeholder for a warrant? Because you need to go in front of CPC with a number.
Oh,
to get
yes,
approved
we
for
already
that.
have that.
Well, I haven't seen anything and approved anything.
You
so
talk to your sheriff.
I'll talk to my chick.
No, we've been in, Rich and I and Caitlin.
So you're
been
gonna
in
be, is
with
somebody gonna be
Cindy.
there tomorrow night to
Yes,
propose how
I
much
can.
monies you're looking for?
I can do
I'm
that.
just saying, because we have to approve it before you put a
Yes.
warrant up
Yeah.
for it.
Oh, I know.
Okay,
Because
number
we're
one.
after
Okay.
your money.
No, not my money.
Well, you're the stewards of it.
You can have it all, but I'm just
You're
doing my
the
due
stewards
diligence.
of it, yes.
Because I also, I don't want to get away from this, but I also have a question for Caitlin in regards to the Mirror Lake project
Okay,
as well.
okay. So,
We're done with
yes, I will come in front. I need to ask, send Cindy a note and ask her what time I should be there.
Oh, you can come in anytime. We don't have, it's nothing like this.
I know it's...
7:30, come on in, and
Where do you meet?
We meet right in this room next door.
Okay.
And the young lady that's out in the audience now, she comes in sometimes.
Miss Donna?
Yes, Miss Donna, but we will make room for you, Dave. I'm
All
sure.
righty.
And yeah, they're beta scoped the project
As
and put
far
together.
as the
It came up with a number, yeah.
I'm not against it by no means, but we gotta prove how much you want first before you go to town
And
meeting.
we have to have some basis for that number.
Yes, that too.
It's not a pie in the
And,
sky.
yeah, as David was saying, initially, the idea was to make ADA compliant trails, but there are steep slopes out there, and also no existing topo
Not to
shown
mention
for
the
that
cost.
area.
Yeah.
Cost should be phenomenal.
You'd probably
So
need
with,
an engineer.
with this.
Oh, yeah, Beta would, you have to engineer it.
Trail
Or somebody
improvement project that includes survey, there's the potential to, either create new trails that could be ADA compliant, having that existing, the topo out there. So.
I know the area you're speaking and doing.
Oh, I know you know it.
We don't have any issue with putting millings down where it's asphalt
Yeah.
with runoff or permeating material or anything of that nature with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We can just roll that out there, no problem. There ain't no recourse from the DEP or anything.
Yeah. And so...
There would be, a permitting is included in the scope of work.
But yeah, part of the surveying, it won't be just the trail, it'll be the circular area so that an alternate trail could be
Well, you
blazed.
mentioned maybe continuing the path that's around the backside, but not going to the right.
But somewhere go around
Around
that.
it,
You can
yes.
go around it and not go through
Yep.
the stone.
Yep.
No tunneling.
No issues there, I just want to
Although
make sure you know.
a tunnel would be kind of
You
cool.
want
but-
$100,000, you gotta get it approved first before you go to the town, because the town is gonna say, well, how much you want?
Yeah, well, that's it, and that's,
That's
we're putting everything in
Well,
place
we're
so
meeting
that...
tomorrow night at 7:30,
I'll
Dave. I'd
be
love
there.
to see you there.
Do you serve cookies and milk?
No, we don't. I just give people a hard time, just like I did tonight.
Okay.
I'm good at that.
Mirror Lake.
Mirror Lake, Caitlin,
Well, wait a minute, does anybody else have any comments?
Yes. I really have to go to the bathroom.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You don't
We
have
understand.
to.
Do you have a quorum to close the meeting if I go to the
No,
bathroom?
we'll wait for you, because we've been having notes back and forth about who's gonna pee their pants first. But anyway, only kidding.
Old man.
So on Mirror Lake, Caitlin, all I'm looking for CPC reasons is we've approved a $33,000 approval for treatment, to continue on treatment. But what our understanding is, we had a gentleman in front of us that Rentham might be kicking it back, and they're not gonna do their 150,000 or say monies. If they don't, then we get ours back. But the CPC was wondering what your opinion is on the scope of work they're doing, because I guess they're finding out that the sludge in there might not be as good as it's supposed to be, and so do you have any input on that at all?
Yeah, so,
I know this is like hitting you up without no,
No.
but
there was, some heavy metals that were found in the sediment, at lower concentrations. And, there's still some analysis that needs to be done on, certain contaminants that were found, like chromium, I believe it's called a T-clip, which would determine what kind of chromium it is. There's naturally occurring variations, I don't believe that's the correct term. And then there's ones that are created through industrial processes. So,
so on your behalf, you're not worried about going forward if we do go forward with it, providing Rentham goes forward with everything?
Yeah.
You know? Because we've approved, I believe, the monies already, but there's a
won't
contingency that it won't be dispersed if Rentham backs out, because they're, say, 85% owner and we're 15. That's why I was only 33,000, but we thought it would give them the incentive to move forward, and if they're not gonna move forward, then fine, we'll just get the money back. They just looking for input from you on what you think about it, and I told them I'd check, that's all. So,
yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think if everything works out, it could be a great project. But, there certainly are risks involved that could pop up.
okay, that's good enough for me.
Anything else from the members? Donna, anything? The Green Day cleanup?
Don't beat me up too bad, Donna, please.
Please do, please do.
Just as an observer of the Donna Jones, North Street. Just as an observer of the advisory committee meeting, where town administrator went through a general run-through of articles, the advisory board asked that Caitlin appear to justify Rentham, conservation-wise, justify the treatment to Mirror Lake.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do to make them do that?
No.
Can the state do anything? DEP do anything?
Well, they're working with that, but see, what's happened is they thought the sludge in the bottom of the lake.
They could get
was
out and pay
pristine.
for it.
They were gonna have it removed, put it on land, dry it and everything. Well, lo and behold, they have found metals in it.
Yeah.
Now it's become, time out, stop. And the thing is, with Rentham, on my view of this, has Lake Pearl and Lake Archer, which will take precedence over Mirror Lake,
Yeah.
because they're twice the size, especially Lake Pearl. So if they're gonna spend any monies at all on rehabbing stuff, it's gonna be on those two lakes first.
Do you know if those lakes have any problems?
No, because, well, they have problems, but not near as what Mirror Lake has, because there's
With the
motorboating.
invasive?
The invasives, I think they've taken care of a lot on there, but they also have motorboating and a lot more activity
yeah.
on those lakes. They're also deeper.
Yes.
Mirror Lake, right at this point in time, I've been on it with my bass boat years ago, which I don't have no more, but the deepest part I could find, excluding the mud, was 4 feet. There is 7 feet right when you come down the hill on the left. That's the deepest part of the pond, but everything else out there is 4 feet or less because
In
it's
what pond?
in Mirror Lake.
Oh, yes.
In Mirror Lake. And Mirror Lake is probably 15, 20 feet deep in areas, but it's all mud.
Yeah.
And now that they've done the treatments and removed some of the invasives and stuff, I don't believe the chestnuts are on that lake. I've never seen them, but I don't believe there's any chestnuts
We've
out
taken
there.
care of those.
So they didn't have to worry about that, but now it's a matter of they want to basically dredge the lake and make it deeper. Obviously, deeper lake, sunlight doesn't hit the bottom, you don't have algae growth as much, you don't have a lot of other issues that go on. So that's where they're at now.
Yeah, they
But-
need to do their
Yes.
research and how they could
Well,
do something.
we made it basically clear that we would vote in the $33,000 towards the treatment, providing that Rentham goes through with them first. If they back out, then we just not gonna
Yeah,
give them the money.
yeah. Okay. Anything else? Yes, Don?
Not on a butter, but for the Eversource plan. I've heard residents ask before, who are abutters, do they get any notification when the treatment is happening, like they may
Or
be
30 days
concerned
in advance?
of play equipment in their yard that they could pull in?
Yes, they will be getting notice in the mail. I'm not.
We
Elaine.
posted this to the website as well.
So yeah, it's been posted to the website. I'm blanking on the how much advance notification. 21-day notice, and then it will also be published in the paper of general circulation 48 hours in advance. But abutters will be notified 21 days in advance.
They'll do what they want to do.
On the website.
If I may, what is this that Eversource is doing? What, are they spraying vegetation or cutting the trees down?
So it's
So I can't speak to exactly what they're doing, but
Just
integrated pest management is usually using the least invasive method possible to control a pest.
So same as what the tracks, what do you call it, doing the railroad tracks?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you've seen them, they're cutting down the trees.
I've seen that,
and
but
all.
I've never seen them actually physically spray anything or chemical or anything for, to remove. That's why I was just wondering. Okay.
I think the idea is to go in and do limited spraying. Someone would have a backpack and, just hit the target areas versus, wait till an area gets out of control and then just having to clear cut it. And, potentially take out natives as well as invasives. So I think essentially that's the idea behind it. Hit the target areas, try to preserve as much, natural vegetation as possible.
And I would assume they're using their discretion on like the ponds on like Union Street where there's that small pond. They're not gonna spray right there around the dam or nothing, right? Or is this stuff?
No, this is just their right away for the transmission line.
Transmission line, so it's the main, okay, thank you.
The main
Got it.
transmission line.
Yeah, not the
roadways.
Yep.
Got it, okay, I'm good now.
Two little administrative issues, I guess. We're coming close to the end of the year. Alan, your term's up. Wait a minute. Adam, would you hold his arm down? And my term is up. And so, just putting out there, so you don't want to come back.
Not as chair, I'll come back, I've been here 5
Oh,
years now. And
okay.
you sure my term's up? I thought I just renewed. I'm only in my 5th year, this April's 5 years. It's every 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not to say that I care, but, I mean,
Did he end up on some list?
This guy?
Listen, CPC, Conservation Commission, Insurance Advisory Board, I've had enough. No more. And I definitely don't want to be in Dave's seat.
Nice and comfy.
Yeah, sure it is, and you can stay right there.
You see, you get a gavel now.
Yeah, I saw that.
And you get a pointer.
Yeah, I feel like you,
I thought I just renewed a
Yeah.
year ago.
Okay, all right.
I could be wrong, but
But somebody should be
Val,
up.
did you renew last year?
I renewed last year.
Okay, because I remember thinking Val and Al.
You two are new. You're new. Peter's new. So.
yeah, he's real new, so.
I think I upped just a year ago.
A couple of years
And
ago.
it's Jim?
Maybe it's Jim that's up.
Somebody should be up.
Well,
But, yeah, if you, find it, Elaine, and then send it out in an email, we don't have to.
yeah, if it's me, Elaine, just send me a nasty email saying, yeah, Al, your time's up, so renew. That's all.
Time's up and you can't go.
That's,
David, you're up.
Yeah.
And Jill Wilson's up.
Okay. Oh,
Sure.
so 2 seats available
You're not
for
up
you.
till 26. Al, you're up in 25.
yeah, I knew I had
Al, you're
nothing
up
yet.
in 26, and Adam, you're up in 25.
Okay.
Chairman Val has a good ring to it.
Yes. Oh, I'd make a good chair, but I don't know. I can be, you saw tonight, they walked away not too happy with me at one point. That's why I had to say what I said at the end, to calm them down a little bit. I don't want to have my heart attack when they leave here.
Well, I won't be the chair, but as soon as they need a footstool.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, sir.
Anything else anybody wants to bring up? All right. With that, where's the motion to adjourn?
I move that we stay here for another, I move,
10 minutes.
Adam Zucker moves that we close the meeting.
Al Finney will second that motion.
Well, sure. You just went out of the room for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, he's all set to
We
go another
haven't.
20. That's exactly.
Feeling
All in favor?
So relaxed.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
We're good to go. Thank